Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Good evening and welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I am C.C. Péan, resident chef of the Reclamation Project and your host for this evening. Thank you so much for joining me again. This evening, we're working on a dish that is an international dish from Asia, from Korea specifically. And I'm really excited to introduce this to you all. In researching recipes to share with you, I love it because I always learn something new as well. Now, I'm very familiar with leeks. I've made leek and potato soup. I've done leeks in pasta and things like that, but I never knew that leeks could be eaten raw, nor did I know that you can actually cook the green part as well as the pale green and the white part. I have always just chopped this off and just used the rest. But this recipe this evening actually uses the green of the leeks, so that's great. What I also love about this recipe is that you're eating the rainbow. Look at these beautiful colors. We've got this vibrant green, we've got this beautiful red cabbage, we've got carrots, we're gonna put a little bit of jalapeno in there. This is a super easy recipe that's super yummy. And let me try to pronounce it correctly. Pajeon. If I have anybody who is familiar with this recipe or is Korean, you can correct me, but I believe it's pajeon. And pajeon or yachajeon is a scallion pancake. Now, let me tell you a little story. When I lived in New York City, there was this restaurant called Ollie's Noodle Shop that was right near Times Square. And I would go there with my best friend and some other friends, and we would order two things every single time. General Chow's mushrooms, they were delicious. And we would also order the scallion pancakes. And the scallion pancakes were super flaky and you could tear them apart, and they had this beautiful, kind of not pungent, but there were a lot of scallions in it and onions and things like that. And we loved it. And for the longest time, I wanted to recreate it, but I knew that that recipe had like a lot of oil and butter, so I avoided it. This one is great because it's fried, but it's pan fried. You're using a minimal amount of oil and you're using more veggies. So the scallion pancake that I loved was literally just scallions and flour and water and oil. This one is chock full of veggies. So it's super easy to make. And I'm just gonna serve it with a little dip that I made. This dip has light soy sauce. It has a little sesame oil in it. It has some sesame seeds, a little bit of agave, just a little bit of agave. But you can make whatever dip you wanna go with this. It's delicious on its own, but it's even better when you just have that little bit of extra flavor to it. So let me talk to you a little bit more about this recipe. You can use all kinds of things in this recipe. This is just what I chose. The main ingredient is either leeks or scallions. But you can use zucchini if you want to. You can use peas if you want to. You can use yellow green cabbage. You can use Napa cabbage. There's so much. People even put kimchi in these pancakes. There's so many things you can do. It's basically just a savory vegetable pancake. So leeks are milder than scallions, so you can use a lot of them. If you were to use a lot of scallions, it might overwhelm this recipe, but we're going to use a cup of thinly sliced leeks. Let me tell you about leeks. So leeks in particular, here's my cheat sheet. Leeks in particular have flavonoids, and the specific flavonoid that is most commonly and highly found in leeks is canprofol, and it is an anti-inflammatory, it is anti-diabetic, it is anti-cancer. It has allicin and thiosulfonates, which reduce cholesterol and reduce blood pressure. So this humble vegetable right here, you're fighting inflammation, you're fighting diabetes, you're fighting cancer, you're reducing your cholesterol, and you're reducing your blood pressure. So again, most people use the white and the light green part, but the dark green part is actually very high in vitamin C. But because it does tend to be kind of tough, you need to remove the woody at the very, very top and cut it super thin. What I've also done is I have discarded some of the outer leaves, and I'm going to continue to get some of these outer leaves. You really just want to get down to the base of it. Now, the thing about leeks also is that you can find all kinds of dirt in there. So you got to be good with cleaning them off. Okay, so I've gotten rid of all the outer stem. The last thing I want to tell you is if you have any issue with onions or garlic, leeks may not be the choice for you. You might want to stick with scallions because leeks can cause bloating and intestinal discomfort if you have an issue with garlic and onions. So remember that. So let's get started. This is super simple again. I'm going to use my mandolin because I want to have really thin slices of my cabbage. Here's my trusty glove that I use. I've talked to you all about using the mandolin because I love it, but I also always warn you about making sure you use a glove because you don't want your finger to get caught by this mandolin. So our recipe calls for, I'm going to do the vegetables first, and then I'm going to do the batter mixture. So the recipe calls for, I believe it is a half a cup of thinly sliced red cabbage. This is an easy recipe to double or triple. I'm sure that is at least a half of a cup. I'm going to measure it to make sure. So I'm done with my mandolin. I'm going to put my glove aside. And let's see. Yep, we've got a half cup there. To that, I'm going to add a half cup of some shredded carrots that I had. You can grate them as well. The thing about this recipe is that, we have gotten so used to overcooking vegetables and almost eating vegetables that are like mushy. That's not the case with this. These are going to have a lot of texture and a lot of crunch, a lot of yumminess. So now let's get to the leeks. Okay. And you're going to see that I'm just going to cut them very thin, as thin as I possibly can. And this recipe calls for a cup's worth. Just going to cut those. I'm going to measure it out to make sure I have the right amount. And just thinly slice. Just take your time. You'll get into a rhythm of it. Probably end up using this entire stock because, and again, I got rid of those tough outer leaves. So you might want to pick up 2 leeks if you're going to do this recipe, or if you think you can stand the spiciness of the scallions, you can go for it with the scallions. I love preparing dishes from around the world because, most foods from around the world relied heavily on local produce and things that were in season. Actually, meat did not play as prevalent of a role until much later in culinary history because there was no such thing as refrigeration. Okay, so I'm going to have to supplement because right here I have a half cup of leeks that are going in there. So I'm going to do this entire stock. of scallions. And I'm thinly slicing these as well. I don't know if you all can see what I'm doing because my bowl's in the way. And make sure you do a good job of rinsing these off too, because dirt often gets caught in these. But getting back to what I was saying, you know, a lot of traditional foods are really heavy in vegetables and fruits. We've got about another half cup here. And that's so great. You know, meat is something that was served as a small portion on the side. It wasn't the main part of the dish. And we've kind of gotten away from that. And I encourage people to, when you make your meals, make sure that it is overwhelmingly vegetables. I'm gonna put a little bit of jalapeno in here. And what I've done, I'm gonna take out all the seeds in here. Every seed is like a whole pepper unto itself. I don't know about you. I like a little bit of heat, but I can't do heat like that. So I'm just gonna cut up a little bit of this jalapeno. Get rid of that. And I'm going to thinly slice this. You could also, if you wanted to, you could use red pepper flakes. You could do that. You could even add like a little squeeze of some kind of pepper sauce or something like that into the mixture. And cut this up. Okay, and drop that in there. And if you look at this, it's already beautiful. It's already beautiful. Eating the rainbow. Look at that. This is what's gonna go into our scallion pancake. All righty, let me clean this off. And now let's get to the batter. Now you can also use rice flour in this if you'd like to. You can also use gluten-free flour if you would like to. It won't come out as crispy, but if you don't do gluten, I'm sure you will enjoy it, and I'm sure you're used to things not being as crispy. Okay, so here's our big bowl. To this, we've got a cup of all-purpose flour that's gonna go in here. We have got a half a teaspoon of salt that is gonna go in there. And we have got a cup of water. And just gonna pour this in. A whisk. Make sure this gets. There are some people that suggest you use things like club soda and things like that to get it super light and crispy, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to keep mixing this to make sure I get rid of all my lumps. Okay, so you've got that in there. And you see it's pretty much like the consistency of a pancake batter, right? See that? So you don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin either. So again, if you wanted to, this is not traditional by any means. I'm gonna put my pan on the heat. If you wanted to, you could always add extra seasonings to the batter, but that's not traditional. And so I'm mixing this because I want to make sure that my lumps are out. I'm not going to mix it too much. Okay, it looks like it's nice and smooth now. Great consistency. And the only thing left to do now, that's warming up beautifully. I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of avocado oil to this, my non-stick pan. And now I'm going to take my veggies and I'm going to add them to this mixture. Super simple mixture. And now I'm going to take this and just mix it. You don't want to mix it too much, just enough to get the batter evenly distributed through to the veggies, okay? And there you go. This is our pajon or yachajon mixture. Don't kill me. I'm learning along with you all. Okay, so we're gonna do, I would say maybe 2 tablespoons worth of batter in each of these little pancakes. We don't want to make them too big. We're going to do this over medium-high heat because we do need to make sure that the batter cooks. So we don't want it to cook too fast. Let me just test my oil. Yep, that's a good temperature. And so I'm going to use my spoon and I'm just going to drop these to the heated pan like so. You hear them sizzling already. We want that sizzle, but we don't want it too hot because these have to cook so that the batter is not raw. And remember, it's a shallow pan. We're not deep frying these, we're pan frying these. So we've got to be careful with that. Okay, we're going to fit about 4 in this pan. We've got 2 done. I know somebody's going to ask me if we can do this in the air fryer. I don't think so. I don't think that would work this would work in the air fryer. This is not something that you're going to do frequently, but every once in a while, it's okay. It's okay every once in a while to have something that, is a little bit on the indulgent side. So this is going to cook up. It's frying nicely. I have it on medium-high heat. Non-stick pan. Use some avocado oil for this, which is great. So again, getting back to traditional foods, growing up, a lot of the foods that I ate in my home were very heavily vegetable based. We ate a lot of different types of greens. Now, we ate potato greens. We ate cassava leaf, the leaf from the actual root. Those were all things that we ate, and they're incredibly nutritious and nutrient dense. Honestly, in my home growing up, meat was few and far between. If we did eat any meat, it was usually something like chicken or fish. But my father was telling me that, growing up in Liberia, especially where he did, which was in Sino County, not in the main city, there was no such thing as refrigeration. So meat and things like that were used for big communal celebrations. So if, for example, a cow was killed or something like that, it fed the entire village. But it was definitely not something that was eaten often. As a matter of fact, I remember him telling me that he is not a fan of mangoes, and I thought that was the craziest thing. And he told me that he ate so many mangoes when he was growing up. Mangoes were everywhere, that he just was over it. He was totally over it. He was not somebody who got excited about mangoes at all. But the other funny thing is, my father in Liberia at that time, rice was really, really expensive. So rice was a big deal. What do you think that meant? That meant that when I was growing up, we had white rice like literally every single night. No lasagna, no baked potatoes, no pasta, white rice. To this day, I can walk into a room or walk into a house and tell you if white rice is cooking. And most of the time, I can tell you if it's sticky rice, if it's a long grain rice, because they actually do smell different. Okay, so these are frying up beautifully. Can you see that? And we're just gonna flip them over. Oh yeah, these are looking great. Got a nice little crisp on the edge there. Okay, and I think I'm gonna add a couple more to this pan. So when you are shallow frying, when you're like pan frying something as opposed to deep frying, you can actually put more in the pan because it's not going to lower the temperature like it would were you deep frying. So I've got a little space here, and I'm gonna do my fifth one. So this made 5 small. You can also do this as one big pancake, and you would really just like, the batter would go over the entirety of the pan, and then you would just use a plate and flip it. That's another way to do it. And then you would just, do big slices, almost like you would slice up a pizza. But this is cooking very, very nicely. This is also another thing that would just be, you can make the batter ahead of time. You can slice up your veggies ahead of time. And if you have guests coming over right before they come, you mix it all together. You put it in your nonstick pan with a little bit of oil, and they're ready to go. And it's such a beautiful dish. And it's just something different to serve, We've gotten so used to eating things that just they're regular. And let me say something else about international dishes, why I love them. If you really think about foods that are considered American foods, most of them are not, pretty much all of them are unhealthy. When you think about the standard American fare or what America is associated with, what is it? Hot dogs, hamburgers, pizza, those types of things. When you go outside of America and you start to look at the foods from other cultures and other continents, there's so much diversity, and there is actually a lot of plant-based food. One of my favorite cultures is Filipino culture, and Filipino culture has a lot. They use their pork and stuff, but at the same time, they have a lot of plant dishes. One of my favorite dessert plant dishes from the Philippines is banana lumpia or banana turon. And I love it. It's basically like a sweet egg roll. It's so yummy. It's so good. But again, there's so many different things out there. So this one now is ready to flip. Gonna flip it, and we're gonna let these other ones cook just a little bit longer because we wanna make sure that the batter that is throughout is cooked. So because we have our pan at a medium-high temperature, we don't have to worry about it burning. So we can let it stay in the pan a little longer. It'll crisp up and it will fully cook. I'm just gonna check this one. Yep. Yep. These are looking great. It's not too different from, egg foo young. I did an egg foo young with you all some time ago. And it's basically, egg foo young is basically an egg vegetable pancake. We used just egg when we did it, and we used Alcave's tofu magic scramble to give it an egg flavor. But it's basically the same thing. It's just, you know, the vehicle by which to get a lot of veggies in. So I'm going to flip these one more time. Oh, yeah. That looks fantastic. We're working on getting an overhead camera so you all can even get a better appreciation for what's going on over here. Because this is a nonstick pan, this one's not ready yet. When I flip it, everything slides. But once I get it on the plate, you will be able to see what's going on. All right. So we've got those 4. This is going to be yummy. The texture, the exterior is kind of crispy, but the inside is a little bit chewy, and then you've got the crunchiness of the vegetables, and it's all together yum. So here's my plate. What's our time? Oh, we're doing great for time today. So these should be done. So these are going to cook, I would say you want to cook them for about 3.5, 4 minutes on each side. If you want yours a little crispier and darker, go for it. You can do it even longer, but to make sure that it's cooked inside, 3.5 to 4 minutes over medium-high heat. So again, you can do them individually, or you can do one big one. One, 2, 3. These are so beautiful. I love tasty and pretty food. We've got 3. There we go. And we have 4. Look at these. Can you see those? Beautiful. Just gonna sprinkle some sesame seeds on top. You can garnish this however you want. You can do slices of scallions, like thin strips. You can dress up the scallions. If you cut them super thin and then you put them in ice water, they'll curl up, so you can have a really beautiful, snazzy presentation. But I'm keeping my presentation simple today with just some scallions, with just some sesame seed. And let me cut this. Grab a fork. That last one. So I'm going to take this one back off and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to dip it in a little bit of this sauce. See what's going on here. A little bit of a crunch down there. And can you see inside? It's just chock full of veggies. Let's just dip it in some of this sauce. A little spicy from those jalapenos, but it is yummy. Very tasty. Again, you can use whatever veggies you want. You can put as many or as little as you want, but up to 2 cups. You don't want to use more than 2 cups. This is our pajeon, which are vegetable pancakes from Korea. Simple mixture, a savory batter. We just used a cup of flour, a cup of water, a half a teaspoon of salt. We chopped up our veggies, which were our red cabbage, our carrots. We have a half a cup of leeks, a half a cup of scallions in there. What else do we have in there? Some jalapeno. That's it. Easy breezy, yummy, plant-based deliciousness. My dip is a simple dip of low sodium soy sauce, a little agave, some sesame oil, some sesame seeds. That's it. This is our dish for this week's Reclaiming Your Health. I would love for you all to try this and take pictures and tell me about it if you enjoyed making it. So that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.